Imagine, like, the quiet, it's early morning, March 18th, 1990 in Boston, St. Patrick's Day. It's done. The city's kind of calming down. And inside this place, the Stewart Gardner Museum's like this treasure chest, right? Modeled after a Venetian palace. And inside, two security guards just doing their jobs, no idea what's about to hit them.
Right.
They're going to be right in the middle of, I think, the most incredible and weirdest art crime like ever.
Yeah, just the boldness of it. That's what gets you. Two guys dressed up as cops walking right into a museum packed with priceless art. It's hard to even grasp, how much was taken.
It really is. And it's not just about the money. It's about losing pieces of, well, our history, basically. So that's why for this deep dive, we're going deep, like really deep into the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist, the biggest art theft ever. We're going to look at how this unique museum came to be. Then we'll walk through what happened on that crazy night in March. Then we'll look at the investigation, all the theories, how it shook up the art world. And then, and this is the exciting part, we'll talk about what's new in 2025, the stuff that maybe, just maybe, gives us some hope. So welcome. You're about to go on a wild ride with us, a true crime story that's still a total mystery.
It is, and to really get how bold this was and how the thieves took advantage of the situation, you got to understand the museum itself. And the woman, the amazing woman who created it.
Right. So Isabella Stewart Gardner, she was, the sources all say it, just a total force of nature. Not your typical high society lady of that time. She was just so curious about everything and loved beauty in every way.
And that's what makes this museum so fascinating. She wasn't just buying stuff to show off. She and her husband, Jack Gardner, they were on these art quests, I guess you could call them, across Europe, Asia, even Middle East, finding things that, that spoke to her.
And she ends up with this amazing, almost unbelievable collection. Not just one type of art either. Like you find Renaissance masters, Titian, Botticelli next to medieval manuscripts, then like ancient sculptures, and then these really personal Degas sketches. It was huge. It was all over the place, and it was all her.
And back then, that kind of collecting, so personal, so eclectic, wasn't common at all. When her husband died in 1898, she poured everything, her energy, her money, into this museum. The fact that she picked the Fenway area, which was just starting to develop then, and designed it after the Palazzo Barbaro in Venice. It was all very deliberate, very personal.
Totally. And it wasn't just the building. It was how she arranged everything inside. That red-tiled courtyard, flowers all year round. And the galleries, they were kind of small, intimate on purpose. And the way she hung the art wasn't by time period or style, but just, by how it felt to her. It really shows you how she saw the world.
It makes you think, what even is a museum, right?
Yeah.
Her way was so different, so unique to her. It wasn't supposed to be just educational. It was supposed to make you feel something. Like one source said, the museum, when it opened in 1903, it was Isabella's home, her heart, her gift to the world.
And she wanted that gift to stay exactly as she left it. Her will, it's famous for being super strict. No changing the displays, moving anything, and definitely no selling. Everything, all 2,500 plus objects, stayed frozen in time after she died in 1924. But looking back, that made it vulnerable, decades later.
Exactly. By 1990, the security there, to be kind, was outdated. Big time, like something from a different time. Our sources talk about the weak spots, no motion sensors in the galleries themselves, a basic alarm, and the biggest issue, probably the night guards. Young, and from what we know, not well trained. Guys like Rick Abath and Randy Hestand.
And it's scary because people knew about this, right? They'd worn the museum board, but it seems like, well, maybe money was tight, and they wanted to follow Isabella's wishes to the letter. So they kept putting off the upgrades.
It just shows sticking to one idea too much, in this case, keeping the look exactly the same, it can create risks you don't see coming. You had these dark rooms, the Dutch room with the Rembrandt, the blue room where the Manet was, the short gallery with all the Degas sketches, all these amazing things and barely any security. One source called it a thief's playground, and that's exactly what it was.
Right. So vulnerable, so open. This place full of beauty, full of history, and yet so easy to get into. It's crazy. How could a place so loved be so unprotected?
Yeah. That's the big question that hangs over this whole story, and it sets the scene for what happened on that quiet night in Boston.
So let's go to that night, March 18, 1990. The heist itself. What's crazy is the sources, they lay it out minute by minute. It's gripping. It's just past midnight. The city's quiet after St. Patrick's Day, right? Inside, in this little booth, is Rick Abath, 23 years old, night guard, also a musician.
It's so normal at first. That's what gets you. Abath, he's probably more into his music than than security at that moment, maybe a little too relaxed. His partner, Randy Heston, also studying music, he's somewhere in the quiet galleries doing his rounds. Last thing on the motion detectors before everything goes haywire is 12:53 a.m., just another night.
Then bam, 1:24 a.m., the doorbell at the side entrance just like cuts through the silence. Roth, he looks through the peephole, and there they are. Two guys in what look like real Boston PD uniforms. Jackets, hats, even badges. They seem to glint in the light. They say there's been some trouble. They're responding to a call.
This is it, right? The moment everything changes, a bath has to decide. Museum rules were clear. No one in after hours, unless it was okayed way beforehand. But these uniforms, they look real. It's late. Maybe he's tired. Maybe he doesn't want to make a fuss. Whatever the reason, he makes a huge mistake. He buzzes them in.
And instantly, the whole thing falls apart. The door clicks open. The two guys come in, the taller one, the one with the mustache. He just casually says, "You look familiar. I think we have a warrant for your arrest." It's all fake. They weren't even trying anymore.
It's so quick, so smooth. A bath, he's shocked. He steps out from behind the desk, probably to ask what's going on, and bang, they grab him, slap on handcuffs. The other guy, he pulls out duct tape like it's nothing. They knew what they were doing. They were pros. They take a bath down to the basement, dark, maze-like, and tie him to a heating duct.
And get this, they use his own radio to call Randy Hesstand. They say, "Come to the desk, we need you down here." Poor Randy, no clue what's happening. He gets to the desk and bam, same thing happens to him. Handcuffs, tape over his eyes and mouth, tied up next to a bath in the basement. In what, like 5 minutes? They controlled the whole museum.
And then they get to work. They were in there for about 81 minutes, and every move counted. They knew exactly what they wanted. First stop, the Dutch room.
And what they take, it's just heartbreaking. Rembrandt's The Storm on the Sea of Galilee, his only painting of the sea, super famous, totally irreplaceable. And then A Lady and Gentleman in Black, both of them, they just cut them right out of the frames, the canvas all ripped and jagged. Brutal.
And then they go for the Vermeer, the concert. There are only 36 Vermeers in the world, and they took one. They sliced it out of the frame, too. It's like they had to have these masterpieces no matter what.
Next, it's the short gallery. They take 5 Degas sketches, really delicate works on paper. And then, this is weird, a bronze eagle. It was on top of a Napoleonic flagpole. Seems random compared to these world-famous paintings, right?
Definitely makes you wonder why that. Was it just something they thought was valuable because it was metal or historical, or is there something we're missing?
Then they went to the Blue Room, took Manet's Ches Tortoni. It's this striking portrait. And they even go upstairs and take a Chinese bronze beaker, like from 1200 BCE. Not as expensive as the painting, sure, but I mean, imagine the history. It's all over the place, what they stole.
And it's just as interesting what they didn't take. They walked right past Titian's Rape of Europa, and they struggled with Rembrandt's self-portrait. They even tried to get it off the wall, but gave up. Maybe it was too heavy. So it seems like they planned some, but also had to improvise.
And the whole time they were in there, the motion detectors were going off. At 1.35, 1.48, and 2:10 a.m. But the guards were tied up, so no one knew. Finally, 2:45 a.m., they make 2 trips out to a hatchback. They load up this priceless art, and poof, gone. Into the Boston night.
And the next morning, the day shift walks in. Can you imagine? The guards tied up, gagged, empty frames, glass on the floor. The heist was over, but like you said, the real mystery was just starting.
Such a bold move. So let's get into what happened next. The investigation, this hunt for these lost masterpieces that went on and on. As the sun came up over Boston that day, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum was crawling with cops, Boston PD, then the FBI. It must have been a crazy scene. Those empty frames, the mess, and the guards still in shock, trying to explain what happened.
Rick Abeth and Randy Heston. You have to remember, they were traumatized. Their descriptions of the thieves weren't that good. Abeth remembered the taller one, the mustache, saying he was in his 30s with a gruff voice. But Heston couldn't remember much at all, probably because he was stressed and, had tape over his eyes. The sketches they made, they weren't very specific. Didn't help much.
And what about, like, fingerprints? Evidence? It's crazy how little they found. They had the motion detector logs showing where the thieves went and that grainy security tape of a bath letting them in. But no good fingerprints, no DNA, really just some traces on the duct tape and footprints. Nothing that led anywhere.
The FBI took over, and fast. This was a huge art theft, likely involving multiple states, maybe even other countries. They got Interpol involved, brought in art crime specialists. This wasn't your average robbery.
Because unlike stealing cash or drugs or whatever, you can't just sell these paintings out in the open. And they didn't ask for ransom at first, which was weird. Made it hard to figure out what was the point.
Yeah, usually with big thefts, it's about the money. But with the Gardner case, silence. It just made things even more complicated. Of course, they looked hard at the guards, especially Abath. He'd gotten in trouble with drugs before, but the sources say he passed a lie detector test, and there was never any proof he did it.
But the idea that someone on the inside was involved, it never really went away, did it? Like someone had to know the museum, the security, right. But they interviewed everyone who worked there, and nothing solid came up.
It turned into this huge investigation. Hundreds of people questioned people who worked there, criminals, shady art dealers. The FBI chased leads all over Boston and beyond, but it was dead end after dead end.
Then there's this weird thing that happened in 1994. An anonymous letter shows up saying the art was safe and they wanted $2.6 million in immunity. The museum even put an ad in the newspaper, but whoever wrote the letter, they disappeared, like a ghost.
It shows how desperate they were and how many false leads there were. By 1997, just 7 years later, the trail had gone cold. It seemed like the case might be forgotten.
But then, 2013, almost 25 years later, the FBI says they have a breakthrough. They say they know who did it, connected to organized crime, maybe the mob. But, and this is the frustrating part, both guys were already dead, and they still didn't know where the art was.
It was a possible answer to who did it, maybe even gave some insight into, the criminal world. But it didn't get us any closer to getting the art back. The reward, it was $10 million by then. Later, they bumped it to $15 million. No one ever claimed it. The mystery continues.
And it's got to be so hard to solve a crime like this, especially after so long. Evidence gets lost, things decay, and if the art went to another state or country, it gets even more complicated. And you can't just walk around selling these famous paintings, right? Someone would notice.
That's where the FBI's art crime team, they started in 2004. They're so important. They're experts in art, the art market, and crime. But even they haven't cracked the Gardner case. You can feel the frustration trying to piece together something from so long ago with so little to go on.
It's like this shadow hanging over the art world. Okay, so let's look at some of the theories and the people who might have been involved. Because with no answers, everyone's got their own ideas.
Right. All these theories, some more believable than others. The mob, the Boston mob, is a big one. Carmel Merlino, he was a drug dealer connected to organized crime. People talk about him a lot. In 1997, he was caught on tape. It sounded like he was talking about giving the art back for the reward money. But when the FBI searched his garage, they found nothing. So was he just bragging? Or did he know something?
And then there's Bobby Donati. He was like an enforcer for the mob. People say he might have stolen the art to get his brother out of jail. But he was killed in 1991, so if he knew anything, it died with him.
Miles Connor's an interesting one. He called himself a rock star turned art thief, and he was in prison when the Gardner heist happened. But he keeps saying he planned the whole thing, even from jail. He did steal art before he even got a Rembrandt etching from the Museum of Fine Arts back in 1975. But he's never shown any proof about the Gardner case, just a lot of talk.
Then there's the ideas that go way beyond Boston. That maybe the art was smuggled out of the U.S., maybe to Europe, even to the IRA in Ireland, or used as a bargaining chip for guns or drugs in the Middle East. It's all very dramatic, but there's no evidence for any of it.
More recently, they were looking hard at this mobster from Connecticut, Robert Gentile. Around 2015, he became a big suspect. They searched his house and found a hidden compartment, but it was empty. They also found a list, handwritten, of all the stolen art with, their black market prices. The FBI really pushed him, but he insisted he was innocent, and they never proved he was involved in the actual robbery.
And then there's the worst case scenario, the thought that, that this art, it's gone forever. Maybe it got damaged. Maybe someone burned it or something happened, a flood, and it was ruined. It's awful to think about with all the history and beauty those pieces held.
It is. Each theory, each suspect, it just makes this whole thing even more complicated. They investigated for decades, chased so many leads, but nothing has given them that big break to bring the art back. It's truly a cold case.
It really is. Makes you wonder which theory, if any of them, is true. So let's talk about the impact. What this crime has done to the art world, and especially to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum.
Well, first, you have the loss. The cultural loss. These weren't just pretty things, they were part of our history. Rembrandt's only seascape, that incredible Vermeer, the Degas pieces, they're all gone. A huge hole in the art world that can't be filled.
And for the Gardner Museum, it changed everything, right? They went all out on security, high-tech cameras, motion sensors everywhere, and they train their guards way better now. But the saddest thing, the thing that really hits you, are the empty frames on the walls.
Yeah, and that's because of Isabella Gardner's will. Nothing can be changed. So those empty spaces, they're always there, this constant reminder of what was stolen. Like our source said, it's a silent plea, a plea for the art to come back, but also a reminder of the loss. It's gotta be a powerful and kind of sad feeling to be in those galleries.
Imagine being a visitor and seeing those empty rectangles where these famous paintings used to be. It makes it so real. And the effect of this theft, it went way beyond Boston. Museums everywhere had to take a hard look at their own security.
Definitely. The Gardner heist, it was a wake-up call. Museums around the world, they started spending more on security, new technology, training.
Mhm.
It also showed everyone this dark side of the art world, stolen masterpieces. You can't just sell them openly, so they disappear into this underground market, used for trades or just hidden away.
And for Boston, well, the Gardner was special. It really felt like the city lost a part of itself. The museum, it's more secure now, but there's this sadness there, this question that won't go away. Well, will they ever get those pieces back?
It shows that even the places we think are safe, the places we treasure, they can be vulnerable.
Okay, so now for the interesting part. The recent stuff, new leads that popped up in 2025. After all these years, it feels like there's hope again.
Yeah, our sources say that in 2025, people are interested in this case again. Part of it is probably because of that Netflix documentary in 2024. Those kinds of shows, they bring cases back into the spotlight, and sometimes new information comes out.
And then there's this really interesting thing, a journal. It belonged to someone who worked at the museum. He's dead now. But the journal, it has these cryptic notes, things like Blue Room and Eagle's Nest. Sounds like someone who knew something, right?
It could be huge. Investigators are going over that journal like crazy, looking for codes, hidden meanings, anything that could tell them where the art is or maybe even point to other people who were involved.
And it's not just clues. The technology, it's so much better now. They might get more DNA from the duct tape or use AI to analyze that old security footage. Who knows what they might find now that they couldn't back then.
Exactly. Forensics, it's always changing. What they couldn't do a few years ago might be possible now. And they're also looking into this farmhouse in Maine. It was connected to a mob guy. They scanned the place, didn't find the art, but they're still digging. Seems like they think it could lead somewhere.
And the reward money, it's up to $15 million now. Maybe that'll convince someone to talk even after all this time, even if it's risky.
That's a lot of money. Shows they haven't given up. The museum or the cops. The Gardner Museum, I bet they're feeling hopeful but also cautious. Over the years, there have been so many leads that went nowhere.
We really are at a turning point, aren't we?
Yeah.
After all this time, could 2025 be the year they finally solve this mystery?
No way to know for sure, but with all this new stuff, it feels like something big could happen.
So we've gone deep, looked at everything, and the art is still out there. This crazy story of a daring crime and a huge loss for the world, really. It's amazing how it still fascinates everyone. And those empty frames, they stay with you, that image of what's missing. If you're listening and you know anything at all, please call the FBI or the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. Even a tiny detail could be what they need. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist. The question remains, will we ever see that art again? We have to hope and keep this story alive. Join us next time for another deep dive into the stories that, well, that make you think.